Here are 8 extremely rich Chinese people who wear cloth shoes and avoid luxury, and their spending habits will genuinely mess with your head. You're about to see a billionaire who lives on less than $7,000 a year, a tech founder who got caught having professional camera crews film his humble street breakfast, and one of the richest men in all of Asia, who wore the same $50 watch for decades and still lives in the house he bought back in the 1960s. Let's get into the countdown. Number 8. Zhong Qingho. Let's kick this off with a man who was, at one point, worth up to $16 billion and who spent his money like he was still counting every last coin. Zhong Qingho built the Wahaha Group into the biggest beverage empire in China. And yet, this billionaire capped his own personal spending at less than 50,000 yuan a year. In actual money, that's about $7,300 for the entire year. Most people reading this spend more than that just getting through the month. So where does all that not spending show up? Start with his feet. Zhong was famous for wearing simple black cloth shoes that cost 30 yuan, which is about $4.50. He got 10 yuan haircuts. And instead of some lavish executive lunch, he ate a plain boxed meal at his office desk, like any other clerk in the building. This is a man at the very top of an industry, living the exact life of one of his own factory workers. And here's the story that really nails it. Back in 2016, another passenger snapped a photo of Zhong riding in the second-class carriage of a high-speed bullet train. His team had actually planned to book him first class. He turned it down, grabbed a 50 yuan second-class seat instead, purely so he could stay with the rest of his travel group. And he spent the whole ride just chatting with regular commuters and sharing his snacks with a toddler. No entourage, no barrier. Just a billionaire hanging out in economy. To understand it, you have to know where he came from. Zhong spent decades doing hard manual labor in rural communes, and he didn't even start his business until he was 42 years old. In those early Wahaha days, he was personally delivering soft drinks and popsicles to local schools, hauling them around on a tricycle. When you build a fortune with your own 2 hands starting that late in life, $4 shoes probably feel just fine. And if you think $4 shoes are extreme, wait until you meet the $10 billion man who refuses to pay more than a single dollar for a haircut and grows his own vegetables in the backyard. Number 7. Liu Yonghao. They call Liu Yonghao China's richest chicken farmer. And honestly, the nickname does a lot of heavy lifting here because it tells you both how he got rich and how little he lets it change him. Liu is worth over $10 billion through his New Hope Group, one of the biggest agribusiness operations in the country. And he lives like a guy who still can't quite believe the money is real. Let's talk about that haircut because it's a thing of beauty. This $10 billion man does not go to some private stylist. He gets his hair cut at simple street stalls, the kind set up on the sidewalk for less than a single dollar. He wears casual t-shirts instead of designer suits. He flies economy and actively hunts for discounted airfares like he's clipping coupons. And here's my favorite part. He grows his own food. This billionaire tends little vegetable patches of chilies and cucumbers at his homes in Beijing and Chengdu. The man could buy the whole farm. Instead, he grows his own peppers. Now, this isn't some quirky affectation. It comes straight out of genuine hardship. During the Cultural Revolution, Liu was sent to work as a peasant out in the countryside, and it was brutal. For nearly 5 years, he worked the fields shoeless, hauling heavy loads of fertilizer around and surviving on barely any food. That kind of experience carves something permanent into a person. So when Liu and his brothers finally started their own thing back in 1982, they didn't start big. They started by raising chickens and quails on their apartment balcony. From a literal balcony coop to one of the largest agricultural fortunes in China. And Liu genuinely believes that the discipline, the refusal to waste, is the whole reason the business survived and kept innovating. To him, the dollar haircut isn't stinginess. It's the mindset that built everything. Growing your own chilies is a pretty quiet way to stay humble, though. The founder of Huawei had a much more public one, and it involved him standing completely alone at midnight in an airport taxi line. Number 6. Ren Zhengfei. Picture the founder of one of the biggest technology companies on the entire planet. Now picture him at midnight, standing by himself in a taxi queue at the airport, casually chatting on his phone, waiting his turn like anyone else. That actually happened. And when the photo hit Chinese social media in 2016, it went absolutely viral. The man in the taxi line was Ren Zhengfei, the founder of Huawei. Speaking of a founder whose discipline never switches off, there's a program someone on our team has been curious about called the Billionaire Brain Wave. It's a simple 7-minute audio built around theta brainwave research, the deep focus brain state linked to where big creative ideas come from. You put on headphones once a day, usually with your morning coffee, and that's the whole routine. It's a one-time $39. It comes with bonus guides on money habits and investing basics, and there's a 90-day money-back guarantee. So testing it costs you nothing if it's not for you. If you're watching on your TV, pause and scan the QR code on screen with your phone camera, or tap the first link in the description. Now, back to just how far Ren takes the ordinary guy act. This is someone who built a global telecom empire, the kind of company that ends up at the center of international politics. And he could have a chauffeured limousine idling for him anywhere he goes. Instead, he was standing in line at Shanghai Hongqiao Airport like a tired traveler heading home, and it wasn't a one-off. Ren routinely takes the public subway during business trips, and he'll stand on the train rather than expect a seat. When it's time to eat, he lines up in the standard Huawei staff cafeteria, tray in hand, alongside the junior engineers who just started last month. Where does that come from? Deep hardship, like almost everyone on this list. Ren was born in 1944 in Guizhou, one of the poorest provinces in China, into a household of 9 people surviving on the modest salaries of 2 school teachers. He later spent years in the military as an engineer, and that structured, no-nonsense, no-privileges discipline never left him. And he's turned it into an actual leadership philosophy. Ren describes his own role at Huawei as basically holding a bucket of glue, his job being to bind his employees, all 180,000 of them, into one cohesive unit. By refusing the fancy perks and living the same daily grind as his staff, he keeps that glue strong. It's tough to resent a boss who's standing in the same cafeteria line as you. Everyone so far has been the real deal, humility earned the hard way. So it's worth meeting the one man on this list who tried to fake it, filmed a cheap little street breakfast to look like one of the people, and got completely busted. Number 5. Lei Jun. Now here's where we have a little fun, because this entry is different from the rest. In June of 2026, Lei Jun, the billionaire founder and CEO of Xiaomi, went viral for a vlog of himself enjoying the simplest possible breakfast. He was perched on one of those short little round stools right on the sidewalk in Wuhan, eating a local meal of hot dry noodles, fried dough, and tofu skin. The total price? 11 yuan, about $1.50. The humble billionaire, back among the people. Beautiful. Except there was a small problem with the picture, because the behind-the-scenes photos told a very different story. That casual, spontaneous little breakfast was being filmed by multiple professional camera crews and photographers, all crowded around this one guy eating his noodles. And the person who exposed the whole thing wasn't some journalist. It was a kid. A primary school student walking by with his backpack looked at the scene and said out loud, "So many people just taking pictures of someone having breakfast." Out of the mouths of babes. And here's what makes Lei Jun genuinely interesting and why he earns his spot. He didn't deny it or get embarrassed. When people online started debating how staged it all was, he basically shrugged and said that in today's hyper-connected world, getting people talking, whether they're praising you or roasting you, is just the cost of keeping a strong, relatable brand alive. He said the quiet part out loud, which forces a genuinely interesting question over this whole list, doesn't it? How much of billionaire humility is real, and how much is carefully managed image? For most of the people here, the frugality is clearly the real deal, decades old, rooted in actual poverty. But Lei Jun accidentally pulled back the curtain and showed you the machinery. And honestly, there's something refreshing about a guy who gets caught staging his humble breakfast and just goes, "Yeah, that's marketing, what of it?" Where Lei Jun turned a cheap breakfast into content, the man coming up treats his own plain breakfast as something close to a religious ritual, and he's given away billions to back it up. Number 4. Cao Dewang. You might not know Cao Dewang's name, but if you've ever seen the Oscar-winning documentary American Factory, you've seen the man. Cao is the founder of Fuyao Glass, and he built it into a giant that supplies a huge chunk of all the automotive glass on Earth. There's a real chance the windshield on your car came from his company, And despite that industrial empire, Cao lives one of the most stripped-down lives on this entire list. He's a devout Buddhist, and his daily routine reflects it completely. He's up at 5 in the morning, and he starts his day with a simple bowl of traditional congee. That's rice porridge, the plainest breakfast imaginable. No flashy luxuries, no indulgence, just quiet discipline applied to every single day. For a man who controls a piece of a global industry, his personal life looks more like a monk's than a magnate's, and like everyone here, the roots run deep and painful. Cao's childhood was shaped by severe poverty. He literally fled famine as a child. He worked as a street peddler and a farmer, grinding through years of physical hardship long before he ever got anywhere near manufacturing. When you've actually gone hungry as a kid, a warm bowl of congee at dawn isn't deprivation, it's more than enough. But here's where Cao's frugality turns into something bigger than himself. He doesn't hoard what he saves. He's donated billions of dollars with a B toward disaster relief, poverty alleviation, and education all across China. And the way he explains it cuts right to the core of this whole video. Cao doesn't see his wealth as his personal property. He sees it as a resource he's simply holding in trust for the public good. That right there is the philosophy hiding underneath almost every story on this list. Which brings us to the man who might take the factory floor lifestyle further than anyone. And he does it while running the company that just knocked Tesla off the top spot. Number 3. Wang Chuanfu. Let's be clear about what this man actually pulled off, because it's staggering. Wang Chuanfu is the founder of BYD, and under his leadership, BYD overtook Tesla to become the world's largest maker of electric vehicles by sales. He is worth around $19.5 billion. He beat Elon Musk at the EV game. And he does it dressed like he works on the assembly line, because in a sense, he still does. Wang is regularly spotted wearing the standard blue BYD factory uniform, the exact same one his workers wear, and eating right alongside them in the company cafeteria. No separate executive dining room. And his commute is the real kicker. This $19 billion man takes the public subway to major industry events. During the massive Beijing International Auto Show, someone filmed Wang and his wife just riding along on subway line 15, quietly scrolling on their budget phones. Not flagship phones, budget ones. The head of the biggest EV company on the planet, sitting on a public train like any other commuter. And this isn't just personal humility, it's literally baked into how he built the company. Wang was born in 1966 to a peasant family, and he was orphaned as a teenager, put through school by an older brother who dropped out to work and support him. When he founded BYD in 1995, he had a small loan and nowhere near enough money for the fancy automated assembly lines his competitors used. So he got creative. He reverse-engineered the Japanese manufacturing processes and broke them down into manual steps done by hand. He turned being broke into a competitive advantage. The man's frugality isn't a quirk. It's the company's secret weapon. Wang guards every single dollar because it's what makes BYD unbeatable. The man at number 2 had the exact opposite instinct. He built a global empire, and then, on purpose, gave the entire thing away. Number 2. Niu Gensheng. Everyone on this list is careful with money. Niu Gensheng did something none of the others did. He gave the whole thing away, all of it. So let's talk about the man who built one of the 10 largest dairy companies on Earth and then handed it back to society. First, the frugality, because it's classic. Niu, the founder of Mengniu Dairy, was famous for wearing a simple necktie that cost less than $3. $3. He kept his daily life stripped down and simple, and he always chose modest accommodations and transport, no matter how much the company was worth. But for Niu, this was never just a personal preference. It was a hard-nosed business principle. His logic was airtight. How can a leader stand up and demand that his employees cut costs and eliminate waste if that same leader is living in the lap of luxury? You can't. So he refused to. He believed, right down to his bones, that real corporate efficiency has to start with personal discipline at the very top. The $3 tie wasn't him being cheap. It was him leading by example, sending a message to every single employee that every yuan mattered. And then he made the move that puts him at number 2 on this list. Niu made the historic decision to donate his entire ownership stake in Mengniu to a charitable trust. His whole stake, He pioneered the trust-based philanthropic model in modern China, essentially inventing a way to make sure his life's work would keep funding social and environmental causes forever, instead of just turning his kids into idle rich heirs. Think about the discipline that takes. He built a global dairy empire, and then he deliberately made sure he'd never personally cash out on it. The $3 tie and the Give It All Away Foundation are the same man all the way through. Niu gave his fortune back to society. The man at number 1 held onto his, and it made him one of the richest people in all of Asia, yet he still spent decades checking the time on a $50 watch. Number 1. Li Ka-shing. And here he is, sitting right at the top. Li Ka-shing, worth over $36 billion, one of the richest men in all of Asia, so respected as an investor that people call him the Warren Buffett of Asia. And this man, with his $36 billion fortune, spent decades of his life wearing a simple $50 Seiko watch. Let that sink in. He could buy any watch ever made. He could buy the company that makes them. And for years, he checked the time on a $50 Seiko. When he finally did upgrade in his later years, it was to a $500 Citizen, and even that choice was pure practicality. He liked it specifically because it was solar-powered and durable, and he didn't have to baby it. It's the same story with his home. Li still lives in the same house in Deepwater Bay that he bought back in the 1960s for $13,000. He rebuilt it over the years, sure, but he never chased some bigger trophy mansion. He just stayed put. And his origin story is maybe the hardest of them all. Li's family fled mainland China during the Second World War. Then his father died of tuberculosis, and at just 15 years old, Li left school and went to work 16-hour days in a plastics factory to keep his family alive. 15 years old. 16-hour days. That kind of scarcity permanently rewires how a person sees a single dollar. But here's what elevates Li above just being frugal. He turned that discipline into a system, and then he turned his fortune into a force for good. He famously pledged 1/3 of his entire wealth, a third of tens of billions of dollars, to his foundation, which has already given away over $4 billion to education and healthcare. He once called that foundation his third son, meaning he treats giving away his money with the same devotion as raising a child. The $50 watch and the $4 billion giving are two sides of the exact same coin. He never needed things to feel rich. He just needed to know his money was building something that mattered. And these were the richest Chinese individuals living extremely frugally. Now here's my honest question for you. If you woke up tomorrow worth $10 billion, could you actually do it? Could you keep riding the subway, cutting your hair at a street stall, and eating plain congee for breakfast? Or would the mansion and the supercars show up by the end of the week? Be honest, and drop your answer down in the comments, because we truly love reading them. If these stories surprised you, smash that like button and subscribe to Global Status, because we drop stories exactly like this every single week.